Daddy was a great large animal veterinarian, probably one of the best reputations, one of the best large animal veterinarians in America. He later got to be old, when he got into his 50s and stuff. He's too old to do large animal, and he did small animal. He wasn't near as good as that, and didn't enjoy as much. He he the thing about people don't understand this. The when farmers were all small business people, okay, and you go out there on those calls, and they'd be talking about, who's bought this land, who's building this, who's doing this, where this road's coming through. They were always looking about making money and stuff like that and whatever. When he started doing small animal, which he was dealing with women and kids and stuff like that. And my daddy also, my whole family, we're kind of different or something like that. You know where we stand, okay? And we don't try to put on any airs or anything like that. And I remember my sister had me one time take her dog in Birmingham to a veterinarian there. Well, first off, they wouldn't say dog or anything like that. They'd call him the patient, the client. And they had dog and cat sororities and all this kind of bull stuff. Of course, they jack the price up, and there's people, eat that kind of stuff up. My daddy, you bring in the fanciest poodle in the world. He said, put your down on the table. Yeah. But people loved Daddy because he wasn't anything fake about him and stuff like that. I'm just about 80. I'm soon turn 80. Now, this is a big deal, okay? At least it is to me, okay? My Huntsville High School class of 1962, I kind of ran our monthly luncheon for about 35 of us every month and stuff at the country club and that kind of stuff like that. But we all felt we were special, okay? We lived in a certain fantastic place in a certain time. And it'd be hard to beat it and that kind of deal. And we all knew it, okay, and stuff. And we're a close-knit, bunch, what's left of us, like I say, over half of us are dead now and stuff. But anyway, back to this 80 deal, okay, and tell you, kind of what the significance of that is. 80 years ago, well, first of all, I told you, I'd spent 40 minutes with Vladimir Putin, okay? Yeah. And that SOB may start World War III, and I may die in World War III, okay? But I was born during World War II, okay? Yep. 80 years prior to that would have been what some people call the Civil War. I call it the damn War of Northern Aggression. Them devils invaded our country just like Russia is invading Ukraine, okay? And then 80 years prior to that war, guess what? Was a Revolutionary War, or what I like to call America's first war for independence. This what they call the Civil War was America's second war for independence, okay? It's amazing. I've lived a third of the life of this country. I mean, and so much has changed. And so much of what people know and think is just absolutely false, okay? And the way it was back then. I'm country, okay? Now, I was raised mostly in the city on Locust Street, okay? Mayor Cersei lived across the street. And who lived catty-cornered for me? Warner Von Braun, okay? And of interest, okay? Warner Von Braun, us Southern ladies with strollers, they stroll, okay? German ladies, one of them runs fly, they go 90 miles an hour flying down the sidewalk and that kind of stuff like that. And also, Warner von Braun was born the same year my father was, same height, same build, and looked just like him in his hair deal. 2 or 3 times I mistook him for my daddy, okay, and other people did too, okay. But anyway, this is the significance of 80, and I reflect upon it because I'm not going to be here much longer, and to kind of show you what my most valuable possessions are now. I mean, this is what, I mean, this is what, this is what happens when you get to be 80, okay? But I'm still kicking, okay? That's right. And that kind of deal. And basically all I have is remembrance and stuff like that, and I haven't been out of the house but 8 times in the last 2 years, okay? And all them is go to the doctors and stuff. But anyway, I do a heck of a lot of remembering, and I also, the other thing I live by is YouTube, okay? There's all kind of educational stuff on there, and I watch that night and day, and I even, hell, I restudied calculus and Einstein's theory of, all this kind of stuff. And there's all kind of courses you can get from Stanford or Yale or MIT. I watch all that kind of stuff. And I told you about my buddy Tom Badham that comes on Tuesdays, okay? And anyway, this is a book he wrote, Birmingham Founding Fathers, okay? But anyway, the great thing about him is his daddy was born in 1892, and his daddy graduated from Yale in engineering, but he joined and went with General Pershing, and they went down there and fought Pancho Villa, okay, and that kind of stuff, which is just crazy to know somebody that, far back. But my daddy was born 20 years later in 1913 or something. But anyway, Tom's daddy then went over to France and fought with the French, flew airplanes against the Kaiser and stuff like that. And actually, I think maybe his brother or something shot down Hermann Goering a couple weeks before the war ended or something, and met him 2 weeks later or something. And all the rest of the Germans was nice, but not Goering and that kind of. But anyway, Tom's daddy then went and in World War II, there wasn't a lot of people that knew anything about flying airplanes. He became an Air Force general. And anyway, but the point is, I know 10 times more about history than other people does. Tom knows 10 to 20 times more than I did. And here's his book on, the founding fathers of Birmingham, who some of his family was. And Tom's daddy and I think granddaddy both were tax collectors in Jefferson County. I think they have, like in Morgan County, tax collector, tax assessors. My granddaddy and great granddaddy were, I think, both tax assessor for Morgan County, okay? They originally started out here in Madison County and went there. And his uncle was a sheriff and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I just wanted to say, that I love history and I love understanding in it. And my definition of history, first of all, I hate the way they teach history, okay? Memorizing names, dates, and places. And my definition is history is not about trivial pursuit. It's about the understanding of forces, people, causes, of how things actually came to be, and provides a useful insight and lessons into the future. And that's, you know, there's just a hellacious difference between memorizing a bunch of junk, useless, trivial junk, and understanding it and stuff. And it affects our entire lives and stuff. And so much of what we're taught is, I won't say not true, but it's just, well, let me give you something. Here's something I live by. It's something I call it the elephant principle, okay? There was a poet way back yonder. I don't know, it was Kipling or whatever it was. But anyway, he wrote about this elephant and 6 blind men. Each of them grabbed a different part of the elephant, okay? But each of them came up with a different idea of what an elephant was like. You know, one of them grabbed the elephant by the tail and said an elephant is like a rope. And another one grabbed him by a leg and said an elephant's like a tree. Anybody would know that. And another one puts his head against the side of him and says, no, an elephant's like a wall, okay? And then another one grabbed him by the ear, and y'all crazy, elephant's like a fan. Another one grabbed him by the trunk. It's a hose pipe, you know. But the point was, each one of them was true. You know, with this judging a book by the cover or from one angle, you got to understand stuff from all different angles, okay? Instead of have a 2D still picture of one angle, you got to have a motion picture of many angles and that kind of stuff to understand stuff. And people don't do it. And so much for our troubles in life, in politics, and everything else comes from people just having one view and not digging and doing this kind of stuff. My mother was raised right out here at Riverton, okay, and stuff. She captained her high school debate team. They came in first place in Alabama, okay. They then went out to Kansas City, the national championship, and they came in third place, okay. There's 4 of them on a team, okay. But anyway, 10 years later, Mother's debate coach ran into one of the judges, and they said, that little Doris could still be here, and we ain't never seen anybody could individually defeat her. You know, but what Mother believed was the true winner of a debate and stuff was the person who learned the most, okay? And she also believed in, you know, seeing it from different angles and arguing both sides and that kind of stuff. Oh, here's something interesting. I never won a debate at home. Not even close. Oh, God, yeah, she was so much smarter than I was, you know, and that kind of stuff. But anyway, the #1 essay contest in the world was a Civitan thing. She took first place in the world and was personally congratulated by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Now, you could not say anything against Franklin Delano Roosevelt around my mama. Okay. Now, Roosevelt had some good things and some bad things about him, okay? Now, Daddy wasn't near as smart as Mother was, okay? But Daddy did graduate third in his class from Auburn, okay? Vet school, okay? And he also had a degree in agriculture and stuff. But the guy who graduated second in his class was Dr. Wilford Bailey, who later became president of Auburn, who later became head of the NCAA, okay? Yeah. And incidentally, I took my daddy to his 60th Auburn Vet School reunion, okay? There was 9 of them still living, okay? And that kind of stuff. Oh, I didn't tell you the guy, Dr. Bailey, the guy who finished first place in Daddy's class, okay? It was a guy named Dr. Llewellyn. He was generally considered the smartest person ever to have graduated from Auburn, period. I used to hear stories and stories about how smart that guy was. He died at 28 in a car crash and that kind of stuff. But anyway, back to what I was saying about I took Daddy to his class reunion. It's not something I wanted to do, you know, but you do it because you're trying to be a nice guy or something. But I took him down there, and it was just me and them, okay? Well, every one of them had made multi-million, okay, and that kind of stuff. But there was none of this big shot and thin stuff. They were just talking, and they was talking about the lives. Each one of them told about their lives and that kind of stuff. And they talked about the lives of others. Some of them had died from alcohol or something like, or maybe got gored by a bull or whatever the hell and that kind of stuff. But one of the most interesting guys there was a guy named Ross Dean, okay? You know Glendine Shopping Center. He was from Auburn, okay? But anyway, the war broke out in December, and their class graduated in May, okay? And Dr. Ross Dean, anyway, he went all over the world. And I'll tell you this much, they put veterinarians over MDs, okay? And the reason is MDs did not know herd management. The veterinarians did, okay, and stuff. But anyway, Dr. Ross Dean got ragweed and allergies really bad. And so after the war, he went out to California, okay, and started practicing doing dairy work. And he bought out a couple of dairies. And then there was this cartoonist came to him, had this idea for an amusement park. Well, Dr. Ross Dean, instead of selling the land, he took stock in it, became the biggest stockholder in Disneyland, okay? He also was the biggest thing in Disney World, and they almost put Disney World here in Huntsville. Did you know that? Yeah. I mean, Von Braun and Walt Disney were big buddies. And when I was a kid, they had all kinds of stuff on TV about, going to the moon, him and Von Braun and that kind of stuff. But the reason they didn't was because water freezes here. Oh, back to Daddy, okay? Anyway, he'd stay up late nights studying, okay? And he'd listen. They had programs like Come In Singapore, or come in, Edward R. Murrow and all these people all over the world, while he's studying late, the stuff is going on. On December 5th, Daddy stood up at the boarding houses down there and tells them, within 48 hours, we will be at war with Japan. And they all just laughed at him, okay? Well, the next day, Pearl Harbor, okay? Well, anyway, so then some of the damn students turned in Daddy to the FBI or whoever the thing was, and they came down there and they said, how did you know about this? And Daddy said, how could y'all not have known? Roosevelt basically drove the Japs to it and that kind of stuff. But anyway, these various broadcasts, they'd say, in Singapore or wherever, they'd say, something strange. All the Jap fishing boats are leaving, and all that kind of. And Daddy put two and two together and stuff like that. And let me also jump from there, okay? I'm bad. Anyway, I'm teaching down in Alabama and stuff, math and that kind of stuff, and I've already got a couple of degrees from down there and stuff like that. But anyway, my Sunday school teacher, okay, was like a colonel in the real army, with the ROTC and that kind of stuff. And he said, we got Admiral Moore coming to town, okay, and I'm going to sneak you into this meeting, okay? Admiral Moore had been the head of the Joint Chief of Staff during the Vietnam War, okay? But anyway, there'll be about 17 of us in there. I want you to sit on back row, and I don't want to peep out of you for nothing, but you know about history, okay, and that kind of stuff. So anyway, Admiral Moore, he talked all about Vietnam, but he also he was the first American to set foot in Japan, okay? And his assignment was to find out why Japan attacked us, okay, and that kind of stuff. And of course, what he says was they were convinced when we only approved the draft by one vote, okay, they knew we wouldn't fight, okay. Some of them asked him, did Roosevelt know? Now, Admiral Moore answered the question without ever answering it, okay. Everybody in the room knew that Admiral Moore had just said, yeah, he knew, okay. Now, I don't know where, I've followed this all these years and trying to figure out, I don't know if he knew there would be Pearl Harbor, he just knew they were going to attack us. But I actually, and I've studied all this stuff too, I think it's one of the smartest things he ever did. It is the smartest because this country didn't want to go to war, okay? And when I was down in Tuscaloosa, my preacher or assistant preacher was born on there at Calvary Baptist, okay? And he was born on the same day I was, okay? September 16, 1943. Incidentally, we used to have as kids and stuff, we'd have fun. Who was the greatest cowboy of them all, okay? And we all cited it was Roy Rogers because he was the only one that used his real name, okay? Okay. Now, anyway, the preacher's wife found 2 Life magazines on the day we were born and gave him one and me one. And on front cover was Roy Rogers and Trigger, okay? And that guy. And then you get in there and you get to reading this stuff, and turned out Roy Rogers' real name was Leonard Sly. And these other cowboys had been using their real names, And but anyway, in that magazine, you read about, I thought, I hated in Vietnam War all the protests and stuff like that. I thought during World War II there was no opposition. Hell yes, there was. And in that magazine, you could, you'd see there was, quite a following and that kind of stuff. But anyway, what Roosevelt did was gave us the gumption and the will to go in there and win that damn war. And even now in this Ukraine deal, you find out, those that have a reason for fighting and do 10 times better. And I see these generals and that kind of stuff. But anyway, too much jumping around, but that's me. Oh, let me say this much too, talking about this 80, my life and stuff like that. I kind of feel like I've lived in 3 centuries, okay? I mean, here's the deal. While I was raised, my heart and my, I'm small business and farming, okay? And that kind of deal. The day school was out every year, my grandmother would have already been to Mother's house, picked up my clothes for the summer, and she would pick me up at East Clinton School, and off we'd go. Now, my mother would come one day before school started back and pick me up. I could have had another day on the farm, okay? But she had to get clothes and books, okay? And I was always mad about that, okay? That's how much I, love the country. And it was hard work, but I enjoyed and I loved all those people. And I'll tell you something else that you just used to make me mad and stuff like that. Not only in TVs, but here in Huntsville, we had a lot of Yankees moving in here and stuff. They had been fed all this stuff about how the blacks and the whites hated each other and all this bull, which was absolutely the opposite from truth. Now, I can't speak so much from the city, but I can definitely tell you how it was on the farm. On the farm, everybody helps everybody. We all work together. Now later, I got an MBA from Auburn, okay? And when I was getting this master's in business administration, they used to talk, of corporate executive was something holy and stuff. When I went out in the corporate world and stuff in banking, and I got to be head of the commercial credit department for the old State National Bank or something like that, which was the third largest bank in the state of Alabama, but still, what I saw was little people, okay? I loved what I was doing in the banking, okay, because I was helping get money to small businessmen. But in the corporate world, well, first off, when you're out there farming in blue-collar world, everybody can see what anybody else is doing. In the corporate world, people can't see and they look busy, and they also, they don't help each other. They're scared if they tell somebody how to do it, they'll get their job or whatever. And I had no role models, and it bothered me very bad. And like those, poor blacks on the farm and stuff like. And I say blacks, half of them were white. I get all upset. They get to talking about, picking cotton was so hard. They bloodied their fingers and all this crazy stuff. Well, first of all, picking cotton is easy as it comes. Cotton don't weigh nothing. I mean, all us kids did it, okay? For the first 15 minutes you pick cotton, you may get your fingers stuck. But after about 15 minutes, if you got any intelligence in the row, you reach inside the bowl and pull it out. That ends that silly snuff. Now all these liberals and stuff like that, yeah, it's crazy. And they act like only blacks did it. Hell, half the people did it, was whites and stuff like that. And my grandparents ran a country store, okay, out here at Riverton, okay, till I was about 5, and they leased it out, and they bought another farm, okay. They ended up having 4 farms, okay. On these 4 farms, they had 4 black families and 4 white families, okay. Anyway, we all got along together. And also, here's something else people don't realize is, in farming and stuff, there really ain't that much to do in the winter, Now, you work your ass off for about 4 or 5 months, okay? You got to get to getting when the getting's good, okay? And in the middle of summer, there's about a 2-week, what we call lay-by period, okay? And in that 2 weeks, we would, on the farm, we would have big picnics for all of us, okay? I mean, some of the best lemonade and other stuff you ever drank, and that time, we all just had fun together and stuff. And then once a year and stuff like that, we would have a big fishing deal where we'd go like to Gunnersville Dam or something as a group. I mean, we just enjoyed each other, and like the gardens and stuff. Well, you had too big of gardens, and so you let other people pick out the gardens. It was kind of like everybody kind of helped and did each other and stuff. And like at the country store and stuff like that. I mean, this is something, I wish I had pictures inside the deal. There were saddles and harnesses and all kind of, horse stuff there, and a big old pot-belly stove and stuff. But on Saturday afternoon, it was the community center, okay? Everybody came, and there would be 2 or 3, storytellers there, and everybody did this kind of stuff. And this is blacks and whites and everything else, and, it was just a happy time, and everybody, I don't remember anybody ever getting mad about anything. I'm sure they did or something like that, but people just cared about each other, and we helped each other. Now, here's what people don't realize is, in the 50s, okay, agriculture really got industrialized. You had the cotton pickers come in. You didn't just have the cotton pickers come in. Like my granddad had 2 B. John Deeres and 1 big Moline, okay, and stuff like that. But, and I saw this on TV the other day, in 1954, Do you realize there were more mules and horses in farming than there were tractors? 1954. That means, oh, David's 11 years old, okay? And Daddy's practice, okay? It was so much mules and horses and stuff, and milk cows, okay, and that kind of stuff. The pets wasn't that much, you know, and stuff. Maybe that was 20% of his business or something like that. And downtown Huntsville, okay, they had a big barn. The city did, okay, right near the depot there, where they kept hundreds of horses to do work in town and stuff. You know, and I remember one night, okay, one of the damnedest nights of my life, they had a big fire there at the barn, and Daddy was called in, and you talk about all these wild horses and stuff, you know, and burnt and scared and whatever and that kind of stuff. That was a sight to behold and stuff. Oh, back to what I was going to say, the tenant farmer system, okay? All right, most tenant farmers, about half their income came from the land where there were sharecroppers, okay? And then they had a percentage, they worked out of that kind of stuff like that. But here's what actually went on in that. The good tenant farmers, okay, that kind of stuff, they would get the best land from the best landlords. And the worst tenant farmers would get the worst pay, and the worst one ended up moving to downtown, okay? You know, they ended up in the city, and they basically didn't have skills, and some of them were lazy. I mean, anyway, that was how that worked. And let me tell you something else, too. The people don't realize a ton of blacks had farms. They went from tenant farmers, saved their money, you know, and reinvested and ended up with farms. And how do I know this? My daddy was a veterinarian. And I went on hundreds of calls to black, you know, people that had these small farms and stuff like that. And they were well respected too, you know, and that kind of stuff. All this is just different from what you see on TV and now and all this crazy stuff. Now, we had, like here in Huntsville, we had tons of damn Yankees move in here. And I had two aunts that were school teachers, and they'd had some of the Yankees come in there and say, well, my little Johnny, you're going to have to put him up 2 years ahead, you know, because he's so much smarter than you Southerners and stuff. Well, little Johnny couldn't keep up with us here in Huntsville, okay. Huntsville High or something, 1 year, and maybe more, came in number 3 in the nation in math and science, okay. Now, we wasn't that good in English, okay? But some of this is because anything a Southern did, that was colloquial. You know, that wasn't considered, you know, proper and stuff. But we worked, you know, we're good at that. And it was mostly us that had been here 1st through 12th and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, we had a lot of smart people and a lot of smart Germans and that kind of stuff. Also, of interest, in my high school deal, less than 5% of the kids I went to school with ended up outside the South. Now, we got them all the way from Texas to Virginia, okay? Now, we had some go back to Germany, okay? And that kind of deal. This is something interesting, too. Last week, I watched something on YouTube. They was talking about Hitler's, you know, the SS, and they was talking about the #1 worst Nazi there was. You know what his name was? They showed this whole damn thing. I mean, it's over our deal. Wernher von Braun. What bunch of crap, you know? But that's the kind of stuff you see. I mean, you knew Bobby Love, didn't you? You know, Bobby Love had that their family had that Twickenham hotel, and the first 6 months Wernher von Braun was here, he stayed with him, okay? And Bobby and him went hunting all the time and stuff, and Quincy, his daddy, was treasurer, you know, here in Huntsville and stuff. Back to me, and I was telling you about I feel a little bit like Forrest Gump or whatever it is and stuff. in my life, okay, I started out like a builder, okay. As a kid, okay, I helped build chicken coops and chicken houses, tenant houses, barns, okay. And we were so, I mean, people don't realize how wealthy we are today, okay? The wealth that everybody has is at least 10 times what we had when I was a child, okay? Now, my family had a lot more money than other families did, but we didn't live high on the home. Why? Because if you're a small business person, you got to save all your damn money to reinvest and that's how you grow. Nobody, lived high on the hog or anything like that. And anyway, it was just a lot better time and stuff. Oh, back what I was saying was, as a child, I did that stuff, and then as I got older, I was a farmer, and then my daddy's a veterinarian helper. I appraised real estate. I taught math, banking, and salesman, and I used to manufacture. In my lifetime, I won 9 state Alabama pistol shooting championships, okay? I actually outshot the greatest policeman who ever lived, Jim Collins, and I outshot the greatest military pistol shooter ever lived. Now, I wasn't as good as any of them, but on my good day and their bad day, yeah, and that kind of stuff. But now, I was the greatest ever with a .44 Magnum pistol. But now, the key word is was. Because I'm blind and I'm weak. I don't have a tenth of strength what I used to have and stuff. But I truly enjoyed it. And give you an idea of how good I was, those police man-sized targets from here to the wall over about 20 feet. I loved hot loads and all that stuff. But I could keep all 6 bullets out of my Smith & Wesson revolver in the man-sized target at 20 feet in under a second. At least I did it 3 times, okay. At the farm, I had her on the bluff, okay. He's 60-foot bluff, and I had targeted out to 1,000 yards, okay. And they were steel targets, and they all weighed about 110 pounds. The ones close were that thick, and the one out there but anyway, I had steel out to a half a mile, okay, which is 880 yards. But I had a sheet of plywood standing up like this at 1,000, okay. I used to hit that piece of plywood with that pistol, average for years, 1 time per cylinder, okay, 1 out of 6, okay. I generally, when I'd go to the farm, I'd fire 2 cylinders and then go down there and check it out. And of course, them damn bullets, they'd come in here like this, and they didn't have any power and that kind of stuff when they got there and stuff. And the wind, my God, the wind can blow it 10 yards on either side and stuff like that. And I killed a deer one time at 300 yards with my revolver, okay? I actually shot him right through the heart when he was just standing still at 250 as he ran out to 300 yards. I put one in his neck, and then I put a second one in his heart, and then I missed him one. Then he stopped still at 300, and I put one in his backbone. He dropped like that and stuff. Like I say, I was, but I ain't no more. I don't even think I'm average, okay, and that kind of stuff. And Daddy was the second strongest man to ever play football for Auburn, okay. And he only played freshman football and stuff. But when he got old, he was, he still thought he was a man and stuff. In fact, one time I had him out there helping me with my cow with the wound turned inside out or something. But Daddy he was great lassoer, okay? And he believed that was something any veterinarian large animal should do. Well, anyway, he caught the cow, okay? But he made a mistake and held on the rope, and it cost him a bunch of ribs. You know, I mean, that's what happens to old men, okay? You know, we make fools of ourselves or something like that. We remember youngness and stuff like that. Daddy used to love to go to the veterinarian conventions, and one of his good friends was Dr. White, who ran Claiborne Farms, okay? And I had a cousin, like seventh, eighth cousin from England, okay? Tony Hardwick came over here. Daddy talked Dr. White to take us out there Sunday morning, just me and Tony, to see Secretariat, okay? And he had another horse there too, named Straginsky, was from Europe. And Tony said Straginsky is about as popular in Europe as Secretariat was in America, or something like that. But anyway, on the movies, you see these horses being sweetie pie and all that kind of stuff. They're full of piss and vinegar, okay? You know, that's how they, you know. I got a little too close, or anyway, Straginsky tried to kick me, okay? And so I backed up a little bit. Well, that put me in range of that damn Secretariat. And that sumbitch hit me like this with his teeth. Fortunately, the trainer or whatever yanked on the leash, but he peeled my hide off, but it didn't get a chunk on me or something like that. I'm fixing right now to do some of this, you know, Forrest Gump stuff or whatever, how you see people. You know, I've known Nobel winners in physics and stuff like that. I've known a ton of senators and governors and stuff like that in my lifetime. And when I was a kid, I went to Highlight Camp up here in Tennessee, Battleground or you know, whatever it is. But anyway, my best friend there was Governor Clement's son, okay? And my worst enemy was David Kefauver, Estes Kefauver's, you know, who ran for vice president. Anyway, Sparkman was a friend of Daddy's, okay, and that deal. And Bob Dole, I got to meet him and talk with him a pretty good while at the NRA National Convention one time. And Hal Heflin, okay, I was president of the Madison County Cattlemen Association, and we had our annual convention in Montgomery for the president of the Cattlemen Association, and they'd paid Heflin a lot of money to come speak there. But I've always been curious, you know, and I'm a learner. That's what I am, okay? I'm a learner and an understander, okay? And that stuff. But anyway, I ask questions. But I've had the president of the American Bankers Association in one of these meetings come chase me down after the thing, you know, because I asked some thought-provoking question, you know, and that stuff. I had the president of the National Association American Real Estate Appraiser chase me down and basically almost spent the night with me up in the room, you know, talking about real estate appraising and stuff like that, and you know, statistics and how all this kind of stuff is. And anyway, at the Cattlemen's Association deal, I asked some question. Well, anyway, afterwards, he had this latest senator we had and invited me up to Heflin's room, okay? We stayed up to about 3 o'clock, all them drinking and talking. The rest of the cattlemen was mad because, you know, they paid a lot of money and they wanted to influence him, you know, but he was more interested in me or something like that. Big Jim Folsom, okay? I married Miss Decatur, okay, and stuff like that. In fact, my wife, she was gorgeous, okay? And if she had any talent, she would have been Miss Alabama, okay? But anyway, she still had like another year at Auburn, okay, and stuff. So I would leave the bank in Decatur and go down there and spend the weekend with her, and then leave about 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I'd come by through, in Coleman, I'd stop at the truck stop there. And when I'd come in the truck stop, Big Jim would holler, "Hardwick, Hardwick, my lieutenant governor was Guy Hardy. Come eat with me." And so I had many a meal with him. And he could make you believe he was the greatest governor there ever was. And he was a smart guy, too, okay, which people don't realize. And Governor Bentley, one of my good friends, is Sam Gervan, okay, and stuff. Well, anyway, right before my legs went bad, Sam had some sort of function for him, and Sam got to be his campaign, thing like that. But everybody, was flocking to him, and of course, I don't flock. I learned from my parents. I wish I could be like them, okay? In that no matter how big you were or how small they were, they treated them basically, and I wouldn't say everybody equal, because if you were a good person, if you were a bad person, okay? But anyway, he came and we talked for like 30 or 40 minutes, and everybody else is, "What's going on here?" But anyway, that's the kind of stuff. And I've known a bunch of Olympic gold medalists, also, Daddy was friends with a guy that was head of the American Veterinary Association, okay? He was a big shot, okay? But he had the second biggest ranch that was in America. Only the King Ranch was bigger, and it was out in Montana, and he invited me and Dad to come out there with him. Actually, what happened, my Uncle Burl was, I had booked a elk hunting trip out in Montana and stuff like that. About the week or something before the go or something, Uncle Burl was standing on some cedar posts or stuff, and a damn rattlesnake was in there. And he took his pistol to shoot the rattlesnake, and by the time he did that, the log rolled out from under him, okay? He shot himself in the toe. And so, anyway, we got to go the trip, okay? And that kind of stuff. And they had the largest sheep herd and the largest this, and my God, I mean, it was thousands and thousands of acres. But when I got there, I found out the guy that actually the money behind it was this Jew out of Miami, okay? And he and I hit it off like that, okay? So Daddy and the big shot, they went and did their thing, and for 3 days, me and the little shot, okay, we had a ball. And he had a Cadillac and stuff like that, and with no doors on the damn thing. And we'd go around and we'd get sick animals or do whatever. Anyway, but he picked my brain and I picked his, and that kind of stuff. And a lot of people had picked my brain and that kind of stuff. Now, I notice now that I'm old, nobody picks my brain. Well, I'm just not sharp like and I'm not that kind of stuff. That's what happens, and let me tell you something. I had polio when I was 6 years old. Now, polio is a strange disease, okay? I mean, really strange. First of all, almost no left-handed people get it. Okay? Second of all, almost everybody gets it is type A personalities. Don't know if we were type A before we got it or it made us. But now here's the really strange part, okay? It kills over half your nerve cells in your body, including brain cells. So if you wonder why I'm a little strange, but now what happens is, okay, those remaining nerve cells, they grow out long, okay, and they find stuff, but they have to do double duty, and that means my brain works slow, okay, and my memory is not good, okay, never was, and stuff, and it's getting worse because that sheathing over the stuff, now we get old, is wearing out and stuff. I don't know if I told you this. As a kid, like I said, I had 6, but like as a 7-year-old and stuff like that, I've got braces on and stuff like that, and I'm out there with my granddaddy, farming 7, 8, 9, stuff like that. But what my granddaddy found out was he put me in charge of about 30 or 40 field hands, okay? Sometimes they were all black, sometimes they were half and half or whatever, but the reason he did that was if they couldn't keep up with the crippled kid in braces, now I worked my little ass off, but he got more work out of the whole bunch than he could done if it's himself there, and of course they thought I would tell on them if they didn't, or and stuff like that. And I'll tell you something. Here's something else people don't realize. In blacks, okay, there's more variety in them than there is in most any other race, okay? Even your DNA specialists are finding that out. But in their society, okay, in the black thing, the black men don't do no work. It's the women. And they're the ones responsible. Now, when I was a kid, okay, the women didn't do no damn work. White women, okay? I mean, they go to the garden club and they do that, stuff like that. But later on, what had happened was the home got mechanized, okay? The wash machines came in. They no longer were canning the fruit or doing the stuff, okay? And also, the men always, I guess it's Victorian or whatever, but we always treated, the women like they were queens or princesses or stuff like that. Nowadays, the liberals try to make something negative out of it, but what I saw was all, that kind of stuff. But in the black deal, okay, it was the women that were responsible, okay? They're the one that raised the family and that kind of stuff. And anyway, and they worked twice as hard as the damn men did too, and that kind of. Now, that don't mean that some of the men wasn't very smart and some of the men wasn't hellacious hard workers. One of my absolute best friends just died this past week, okay? His name was Charles Jones, okay? And Charles Jones was like 6'3", 4. He thought professional football players were sissies. And if you were around him, you wouldn't believe him, okay? Granddaddy would have about, 20 or 30 field hands, and we'd work over a herd of cattle, okay? It was a 3-ring circus, okay? Me and Charles would work the same amount of herd and that kind of by ourselves in half the time, because Charles was smart, he was hard working, and he'd grab a bull by the tail and shove him in the damn chute and stuff like that. Now, Charles was a Superman. Do you know Dick Allison? Yeah. You ask Dick about Charles, okay? Charles was the most man I ever knew, okay? Until one time at the stockyard. And my daddy did the stockyard, okay? It's been there and anything. But anyway, at the stockyard one time, they had brought some damn wild boar hog out of Florida, okay? Big tusked hog and stuff like that. That boar hog caught Charles with a tooth around his ankle and came out around his knee and flipped Charles over a 7-foot fence, Now, Charles was never the same man after that. The leg healed, but and that kind of stuff. But anyway, Charles is about 15 years younger than I am. I expect to have Charles to take care of him in my old age and that kind of. About 8 or 10 years ago, he came down with diabetes, and within about 2 years, I had to cut his legs off, and then he went to kidney dialysis and stuff, and he died, and it's terrible. But anyway, He was fantastic. One of the 3 best friends I've ever had in my life and stuff. And I want to tell you about another Charles Jones. No kin, okay, but on the farm, okay. And this kind of tells you about things. People think, when you talk about the blacks being lazy or that kind of stuff like that, it means you hate them. Or let me ask you something. You're different from little kids, right? Do you hate little kids? Yeah. Do little kids hate you? There are, in this whole world, there are a few, but they're rare as hell, okay? The women, they're different as hell from men, okay? Do you hate them? Do they hate you? Yeah. So if somebody's different from you, does that mean you hate? Of course, all this liberal philosophy is you must hate them. That's crazy. And now they doing it now. I mean, anyway, on my granny, I told you there were 4 white families of tenant farmers and 4 black families. One of the black families was the Joneses, and the ringleader was Charles Jones. Charles Jones was so damn lazy, I don't think he ever even tied his shoes. But now, hold on now. Here's the deal. You love Charles. You could not help but love him. He was fun. He was a good person. Just because somebody's lazy or not smart, that don't mean you don't love them, okay? And I did, okay? And they did, and that kind of stuff. And even, as it got old, on my farm and stuff, I had a big fishing pond, and a lot of them loved, Charles Jones loved the rabbit hunt and stuff. And my God, I wouldn't let other people rabbit hunt, for he would have, a place. And like Mary and Bessie, Mother had 2 maids, okay? They came 2 days a week, okay? The mother figured out that she had 1 cook and 1 clean, okay? And they'd cook enough for 2 or 3 days, okay, and stuff. But anyway, they were both fantastic people and stuff like that. Even years after Mother died and stuff like that, they would still bring me meals. Mary was bigger, a lot bigger than I am now, okay? And she had diabetes, and one day she took a triple dose of insulin or something like that. And anyway, Mother called me. Mother and Bessie couldn't figure out what's wrong with her. But anyway, when I got there, she was going into diabetic shock. I grabbed her up, picked her up, and she was a whole lot bigger than I was. Put her in my truck and run her to the hospital. Now, the Mother's house over there behind Blossomwood School in the Whitfield deal like that. But they said if I'd been another 2 minutes late, she'd died, okay? If I get into heaven, Mary and Bessie will be there telling St. Peter, you hold that gate for David, and I guarantee you that St. Peter ain't going to mess with me. And I'll tell you something else, too. One time, do you remember Southern Cotton Oil?
Church Street?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. One time I was over there getting, feeding, and you're talking about 200 feet high or something, those big old sacks of seed and stuff. I was getting some. Well, anyway, they had this black, I vaguely knew him or something like that, but he was drunk, been drinking and shit. But anyway, he reached at the bottom and pulled out a damn sack from the damn bottom. Well, that whole damn stuff comes down. Well, old David, at great risk to his life, went and flew and knocked him and both of us and kept both of us from getting killed, and that kind of stuff like that. But now, according to all these people that are up there right now, tearing down our Robert E. Lee statue and stuff, people like me are racist, okay? But on the other damn hand, let me tell you something, and here's something back there, even back, the 50s. All the blacks knew that all these people came in here professing their love for them and stuff like that. They were uncomfortable with them, and they didn't know how to act, and they didn't, they loved the race, but they didn't love the individual. And as Southerners, we loved the individuals, and we knew some of them were good and some of them were bad, okay? But the same one we thought I didn't like is the same one all my other buddies didn't like, and I'm talking about my black buddies and stuff like that, because they're damn thieves and stuff like that. And now back then, you didn't have money to buy pistols with and stuff. I mean, here's something crazy. In my 80 years, okay, do you realize the population of this country has tripled? Not only that, the population of the world has tripled. The population of China is tripled. And not only that, the wealth of each individual is, 3 or 4 times greater than what it was, okay? Anyway, the world is producing 10 times more goods and services it did than when I was a kid. It's mainly due to, the technology and stuff. Again, you're thinking about Cecil aspirin. I ain't 1/10 of what Cecil aspirin was. I mean, no way in hell, and that kind of stuff. And the only thing that makes me, I got great strengths and great weaknesses and stuff like that. But I've never been subject to groupthink. My mother made damn sure here's a story, a joke Mother used to tell, okay? 2 mothers watching a military parade, okay, go by. And one mother said, "Look, there's my son. He's the only one in step." Okay? And of course, what the joke is, he's out of step, okay? But the way my mama told the thing is you be the one out of step, okay? You don't be group think. You think and you examine and you ask questions, and you figure out you say, is that really so, and that kind of stuff. Oh, let me go back to I used to hear that things, when I was growing up and stuff, the tenant farmers and that kind of stuff, the sharecroppers, it wasn't that much different than it was back in slavery times, okay? But now I actually believe it, okay? But I don't believe it was like it was bad. I don't believe slavery times was that bad, okay? I mean, here's the deal. You got to go along to get along, okay? And here's something else, okay? I've read, a lot of stuff about what London was like during the 1850s, 1860s and stuff. Do you realize in London, the average house had 40 people living to a house, and that had 8 people to a room? No, that's average. That's all of them, okay, including, when you take stuff like that. And I don't think it would probably been that much different than New York City or something like that. I mean, people don't, and that kind of stuff. I don't think the slavery here in the South, for the most part, was that bad. Now, I'm sure some of it was very bad, but I'm sure some of it was very good, okay? All my life I've studied this stuff, and one of my wisdoms here, you'll see where I keep correcting stuff you learn. I'll change my mind on a dime when I find out new information. I don't understand people who get stuck on something. I get this from, Mother, where you're searching for the truth, okay? And you never really know, but you just keep searching and that kind of stuff. But anyway, back to this deal. The slaves here in America, in the South, they were valuable, okay? You could either buy another slave or buy 500 acres, okay? Well, as you know, if you got something valuable, you're going to treat it pretty nice, okay? First of all, before Columbus even discovered America, it had been going on for 500 years, big time. There was like 15 million slaves taken out of Africa. They crossed the Sahara Desert, okay, and went to the Arabs and in that area, stuff like that. And man, that was brutal too, because most of the guys that they did, okay, and they didn't mind, you die. I mean, they made units out of them. I mean, they cut it off and they stuck a straw in there, and if you bled to death, too bad, okay? That was the kind of the way that thing went. But when the Portuguese started to, going down there and finding slaves, they were already, they called them factories, okay? The blacks were there. You just drove up and bought them, okay? I always thought, because in your history books, they never come out and spell out that it wasn't whites going in there and getting them. And here's the deal. Whites couldn't go in there because they would die. Even on those slave ships, which were horrible, okay? Those Yankee Clippers, okay, and stuff, which is generally financed by New York City and the Jews in Rhode Island. Even in there, about 15% of the slaves died on those trips, okay? But so did the slavers, okay? They were all kind of, tsetse flies and stuff. You could not go into Africa and not die. It was later when quinine and stuff like that came available that they went in there. I told you about my buddy Steve Garland. He was international Safari Man of the Year, killed the third biggest grizzly, Boone and Crockett grizzly and thing. And while I had a better pistol shot than he was far better than I was and everything else, okay? And he was good. And when he'd go like to Africa and stuff like that, he went all over the world hunting. But the guides would invite him back for free just because they admired his skill. One time he was in Zimbabwe, okay, and he was hunting with the number one guide and the number one tracker over there in Africa. And anyway, at the end of the day, Garland said, "Man, that tracker's good." And the guide says, "I don't know. We seen 7 head of game today, and you saw 4 of them first." And Garland was quicker than lightning too. He could, before you see it, he'd have it dropped, man. And he was anyway. He was a man's man, and he set all kinds of records he was from Virginia, okay, and he went to VMI. He was a swimmer, and he set all kinds. He would have been in the Olympics, but the Olympics were every 4 years, and he was 2 years out of step, and he got married and he went and did that kind of stuff. But he bought more hardwood timber than any man ever lived, okay. He got me to reading all these hunting in Africa books, okay. About the 1890s and stuff, there were several big name white hunters went into Africa big game hunting, okay. 99% of the people in interior Africa had never seen a white person. I thought a lot of stuff, the way the blacks were and stuff like that, was because slavery. You get to read those books and say, my God, they ain't changed, okay? In Africa, the women did all the work. They were virtually slaves to the men, okay? The men were the protectors, okay? You didn't want to be a straggler, okay? Because if you killed a baby, the opposing tribe or whatever, you got a little mark on this shoulder. If you killed a woman, you got a bigger mark on this shoulder. And then if you killed a guy on the other deal, you got a big cut there. So you didn't straggle, okay? And that's basically the way they did. There wasn't so much like in Europe, the big wars and stuff like that. And here's something else people don't realize is Africa is like 3 different sections. You got up there on the Mediterranean, okay? That's the Phoenicians and all them, they shared information you learned from everybody else. But then you had that gigantic, woolly booger, terrible place called the Sahara. And this is what hurt the Africans, okay, the sub-Saharan Africans. There wasn't hardly any traffic going through there, no trade. I mean, you had the Silk Road between China and Europeans, and they learned from each other, okay? And then later they learned from when they, came to America and they brought back, various stuff. But in sub-Saharan Africa, the other thing you don't realize is sub-Saharan Africa is on the damn equator. Okay? Now, necessity is the mother of inventions, okay? You didn't have to work if you lived in sub-Saharan Africa. Not only that, but all around the globe on the equator, there was very little. New Guinea, the Aborigines in northern Australia, you know, the primitive tribes in the Amazon, you with me? They had no reason to do any, work or do anything. It was there and stuff. And that's what was going on. And basically, the sub-Saharan African were like 2 or 3 millenniums behind the rest of the world. They were at least a millennium behind the American Indians. Think about all the things in the Incas and the damn Aztecs and the Mayans and all, even around here, the Indians and stuff like that, the mound builders and all these stuff. And let me tell you something. As a kid, I used to worry about, or wonder, I wonder about every damn thing. Why they were big game in Africa and they wasn't anywhere else. Well, hell, the English had the damn powerful longbows, okay? And they had the crossbows, okay? The Chinese and Genghis Khan and them, they had those hellacious recurve bows, okay? And that kind of stuff. And the Indians here, even out west, they had bows that would drive an arrow clean through a buffalo, okay? The bows they had in Africa were like child's toys, okay? They had some where they put a little bit of the pygmies or something like that, put some poison on stuff, but they basically didn't have it. And let's talk about any piece of technology you can think of. It was virtually almost unknown. They did have some metal working, which they mainly made spear points with, okay? But that was about it. And any town in Europe would produce more steel or metal in a month than the whole sub-Saharan Africa would do in a year, okay? That's how, backward they were. And like when the Portuguese came over there and stuff like that, they didn't find anything to trade with. There was, they could get some ivory that had fell off the damn, stuff, but there wasn't much hunting or doing it. Now they did do about once a year, they'd have a big fire and they'd catch stuff and then club it, when stuff come out and stuff like that. But basically, they didn't have any meat to eat. And when these hunters went over there, my God, they would all come from, miles and miles around to get that damn meat. And they also talked about if you eat meat and the fat and stuff, the skin it do cold at night and stuff like that. So anyway, there's a whole lot to this. I mean, here everybody thinks the white man held the blacks back. No, we yanked them forward centuries and stuff, okay? I mean, that's what's going on. And some of the defense of that, even as a child, I thought it was some of that kind of stuff, and I've known some other people that thought it. But it was because they started the race so far behind, okay? And the deal is, the number one thing that holds somebody back is who raised you as a child, okay? Down in the Caribbean and stuff, okay? There was only about less than 3/4 million blacks, slaves ever imported into this country, okay? There were 12 to 15 million that were sent to Brazil and the Caribbean and stuff. And of course, Brazil is just a short trip back and forth, quick, and they wasn't as expensive, okay? And then in the Caribbean, they, here in the South, you only worked about 6 or 7 months a year, okay? Down there in those sugar plantations, they work year round and stuff, and they would literally work them to death, okay? Now there's one picture I've seen 1,000 times. You have to, about this slave sitting in a chair and his back is all, all thing. I always thought that would have been something that came out of the Caribbean and something like that. It turned out he was in South Carolina. I don't know what all he'd done to do that, but you sure wouldn't, if you mark up a slave or something like that, then you can't sell him because everybody knows he's going to be trouble. But anyway, all this kind of stuff is stuff that, well, first of all, I didn't know this stuff till I started, reading, doing all this reading and studying and stuff, a lot of stuff, but also how the farm was. And again, the sharecroppers, I don't care whether you're black or white, half the time you work for somebody else, okay, other than that kind of stuff. Well, if you were lazy and laying up in bed, you didn't earn no money. And also, if you were industrious, something, you grew watermelons or you had pigs, you had some sort of way to get you more money, and you would spend it and be, well, it's the same. It's what small businesses do. Oh, also, what I'm going to tell you, also, over where Daddy was raised in like Danville and stuff, he used to call that God's country, okay? And later on, when Daddy was too old to do large animal, he did small animal and stuff. But when somebody, mostly black, would come from over here and stop at Daddy's office, okay? Daddy may have a whole office full of customers, clients or whatever it is with dogs and cats. When that person from God's country came in, and a lot of times, Daddy and that colored person, they would sit there and laugh and talk for an hour or two, okay? Everybody else would wait. I mean, they loved each other. When I was telling you about the colored families that lived on the farm, okay, one of them was named Barnett's, okay, Jimmy and Georgia, and they had 12 kids. 11 of them graduated from college, okay. These are sharecroppers and stuff, but they wasn't no lazy people, and they were smart, okay. Georgia, my mother and Daddy were bad about going to these vet meetings and stuff like that. Anyway, Georgia would come stay with us at night, and sometimes her kids were, okay. I told you about 80, and like that. Anyway, I knew people that were born during the War of Northern Aggression, when they invaded our country and stuff like that. They were all, the people I knew that had been born during the, they were so young they didn't remember, but they remember right after it, okay. They also remember eating dirt because this just devastated the South, okay. I mean, what you don't realize is how many mules and horses were killed. Also, during the war, the Yankees tried to get the blacks to rise up and kill their white masters, but they never did. Now, a lot of them, because the farms, wasn't productive, because you got to be pretty smart to do farming and stuff, when to plant and stuff and what to do. But after the war, there was they used to tell me about how they had to eat dirt. They could show me the very, which was good dirt to eat and which was bad, okay, that kind of. And here's something else you don't realize and stuff. And they used to tell me about this, and I thought they didn't know what they was talking about. They had these old muzzle-loading shotguns, okay? And they told me they were, their parents had it during slavery time, okay? Now, that didn't, fly with what you always hear or stuff like that. But later, these archaeologists and stuff, they get to digging, they find out, yeah, they had tons of guns. But here's the deal. You think about the white master and stuff, you got to feed these people during the winter, okay? Yeah. Give them guns, let them hunt, And like I say, it's this get along, go along. And again, they got the house and they got the thing. I guarantee you the black women in slavery time in this country had it way better than they had it in Africa. Oh, Georgia, okay. When she would tell us tales about, when she was young and stuff like that. She told me like her mothers and the women and stuff. Her daddy, okay, they had problems with him and stuff, so they went to white people. And let me tell you something else that's weird too, okay? Stuff. I told you about, Georgia and her kids and stuff like that. People didn't know, we used to have segregated schools and stuff, and of course the white schools were run by the whites and the black schools were run by the blacks. I mean, Georgia's girl and stuff used to tell me about all this stuff and how bad it was in the schools, okay? But one time they couldn't come and some other black gal, and that's the way, came and stayed with us, and she told me about all this, They were so thrilled. Teachers were scared to teach, okay? They would cut their tires. They carried knives. I mean, it was bad, okay? How the student. But now you think about it, I loved education and stuff because I learned it from my parents, okay? The value of it. But these people who'd worked with their hands and muscles all their lives, they didn't value it like we did, and that kind of stuff. And now, again, we're talking about the in-town schools and stuff like that, where the people that were too sorry to be tenant things came to town. Plus, during the 50s, you cannot imagine how agriculture in the 50s got mechanized, okay, and stuff. And man, it didn't take but a few years, but you got all these blacks and other, but they didn't know how, they didn't have the city skills yet. It takes a while to learn them and difference and stuff like that. And there were too many of them, okay? And I'll tell you something else, worldwide or something, when they found out areas that had slavery, okay, even though after they got over it, they didn't rise up as much because the wage rates was so low. You with me? Because there were too many of them and stuff. Let me tell you something. I hate big government. Wait a minute. I hate big corporations. I hate big churches. Okay? I hate big anything. Okay? I'm Mr. Small Independent Businessman. That's where my heart is. That's where my belief is. Okay? And I think that's bad, and we need to be doing stuff to get there. Okay? Let me kind of swap subjects with you right now, okay? Here's my big deal right now, okay? If I were young, what I would go into to make money, and I would make $1 billion on this, would be go into education. And here's where I come from. When I was a kid on the farm, the average farmer, okay, farmed like 40 acres and stuff like that. And we made like a third of a bale an acre. Nowadays, it's like 10 times that per acre, or 5 to 10 times that per acre. Plus, now you do 400 to 4,000 acres, okay, and that kind of stuff. All right, in lumber, okay, in timber, double-bitted axe, okay, and those cross-cut saws, okay. I mean, later on they came in with the chainsaws. Now they come in with the damn things, cut the whole tree down, strip it, do it, damn, engineering, okay, and stuff like that. My family, we're a farm family, and we built houses here for about 15 or 20 years and stuff like that. But we didn't have any respect for the engineers, okay? My family didn't. And the reason we didn't was they made hellacious salaries, okay? But they couldn't come up with a damn down payment. You know, that didn't go right with us, okay? And that kind of stuff. But anyway, I was good I had polio, okay? Well, in that year I stayed out, it was between my first and second, okay? I didn't do any reading, but people gave me all kinds of coins and cards. I played math games and did stuff, and when I started the second grade, I had a fourth grade education in math, okay? My dad loved math also, but I was just way to hell smarter than anybody else in the damn room. But I barely knew my ABCs and I couldn't even read, okay? I was the dumbest person in the class on reading. I still have they'd put me back in the the poorest reader and stuff like that. And I still have trouble reading aloud for people, okay? Psychological from way back then, okay? And I read slow, and part of that has to do with, again, those polio nerves and stuff like that. But now you put me on a physics book or a chemistry book or something like that where you have to grind it out. Anything called analytical, I'm great at, okay? But I'm dumb as hell on other things, and that kind of stuff. Anyway, I get down to Auburn, I don't know what to do, when you need to go into math, okay? And I mean into engineering. Well, at the end of my first year down there, they sent out a list, and there was about 5,000 students in engineering time, but they sent out a list of the top 50 students in engineering, okay? Well, I started at the bottom, okay? There I was at 49. But I read up the deal. Number 2 was my roommate. And you being football guy, you know who number 1 was? John Cochran. Yeah, oh God, yeah. And he looked like a damn ape, I mean, he really does. He's got extra 6 inches in his arms and something. Let me tell you something. When I left Huntsville High School, and 2 days later, I was in Auburn after I graduated from Huntsville High School, and me and John registered together, okay? Hardest thing I ever did was go get registered, okay? And John and I did everything together, okay? And anyway, he looked so damn dumb with those things like that. But I'd see him across campus maybe later in the thing like that. Hiya, David, I'd think he wanted to show me that he's still in school. I said, but Auburn will never allow him to come back this fall, I didn't see him about the first 2 weeks, but later, and I felt good about Auburn not doing that. About 2 weeks in, hiya, David. I mean, on this deal, with Apollo 13, he had a lot to do with that damn deal, the saving and stuff. And I think he became assistant dean of engineering at Auburn and stuff like that. And Bill Cody, you know Bill, you remember him, don't you? I used to buy tickets from Bill Cody, okay? And incidentally, I always thought they paid him, and so did the other football players and that kind of stuff. But anyway, in talking to him, he said, no, what the people did, the other football players would give me their tickets for their families to sell because I could get more money. Bill Cody was like the president of the student body and just a hell of a guy. And that kind of, he says, also, his daddy was Air Force officer, okay? Colonel or whatever it is. I was asking about sugar, pay him. He said, no. He said, in fact, what happened was the damn Air Force tried to make my daddy make me go to the Air Force Academy because I was such a good football player and stuff. But anyway, Bill Cody played several years for the Baltimore Courts and stuff. But he'd have John Cochran for the Rotary Club come up there and speak, and when they had seen him, they think, who is this damn dumb ape, you know? But anyway, he was smart, okay, and stuff like that. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you, okay? Daddy always wanted me to go in some veterinarian, okay? I could never have worked under my damn daddy because he was too much, controlling. And he had my damn mother with her persuasive ability to always, your daddy. And hey, and to see my daddy, okay, I had to get up like 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, okay, to see Daddy. And that Daddy worked till he would come in about 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, okay, and stuff. And he worked all that damn time, okay. But now he took off a half a day off on Sundays. Hey, Sugar Jordan's brother Ned worked with Daddy for a while, okay. He came work with Daddy, okay. Well, Daddy fired his ass. You know why? Because Ned Jordan wanted to take more than a 15-minute lunch break. I mean, but now listen, that extra money you make doing those extra hours, you plow it back. You with me? That's how you get ahead in life and stuff like that. I knew, Shug and he actually was one of Daddy's coaches. And I'm sure you know this, but Shug Jordan, you know who the Pistol Pete Marriage was? Shug Jordan. Of his time.
Oh.
He was the highest, big, that kind of stuff. Furthermore, Shug Jordan did basketball coach, okay? And when Shug Jordan went to Georgia to be assistant or whatever it was. Anyway, Adolph Ruff told him, no, he says you will replace me as the greatest basketball coach this conference ever seen. Wow. And that kind of stuff. He was special. And incidentally, I love my favorite coach of all times. You want to guess who it is? Guess.
Pat Dye.
Pat Dye was hellacious smart, okay? And I mean hellacious and stuff like that. But no, in fact, Pat Dye cussed me and my brother-in-law Brad out, okay? And that kind of deal. Who was the guy, lawyer here in town that was on the board of directors for Auburn? Died about maybe 15 years ago or whatever.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, he was a good friend of Daddy's, and he gave Daddy the football ticket and the parking pass, okay? To park right there next to the stadium, okay? So me and Brad, Brad being my brother-in-law, we goes down there. We goes in this parking lot, and we sit there about an hour before the game, listen to the radio and stuff like that. Anyway, here comes this pickup truck. He gets out and just is damn drunk, and he just lights into me and Brad, and his name was Pat Dye, and he was mad because we were in his parking lot, his space. Now, Pat Dye, I got to know him, for the Cattlemen's Association and stuff like that other time. But that's my number one member of him, okay?
So who's your favorite coach of all time?
The guy, he called me about 6 months ago, and I thought it was a scam call, and I hung up on him. And this coach, I was in love with him when he used to coach at Tennessee. His name is Bruce Pearl.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, he is fantastic. I love him. Now, don't get me wrong, that damn son of a bitch Alabama's got right now may be a better coach than he is.
He's up there.
I mean, he's good, okay. He's got me scared, okay, like that. In that same phone call, okay, another guy I've always wanted to meet, okay, was with him, and I didn't get to talk to him either. His name was Lloyd Nix. Have you ever met him?
No, I haven't.
Oh, God. You know who Lloyd Nix was, don't you? This is the captain of Auburn's 1957 national championship team. You know Bill Johnston, right? Yeah. Well, anyway, Bill Johnson, his family is the Kellys out here in Jeff, okay? And they were one of the wealthiest families here in this county for years, okay? The Kellys and stuff like that. Well, I went in 1957. I went with Bill Johnston and the Kellys to the Auburn, Alabama game, okay? Anyway, the Kellys being one of the richest families in Madison County, we sat in the cheapest damn state. The little wooden bleachers in the end zone. I sat on second row, okay? And half the Kellys were for Auburn, the other half the Kellys were for Alabama. Bill was for Alabama, okay? And at halftime, the score was 34-0, and Auburn on the way to win the thing. But in the second half, I think it was Tommy Lorino. I still can name almost everybody on that damn team, okay? Now, I can't tell you who. I can't name you but two players on this past team, but Tommy Lorino had broken, was on the way for a touchdown. Now, we're talking about they're huddling, okay? Auburn is huddling in the end zone. At that time, they were huddling from here to the door from me, okay? And that kind of stuff. Anyway, Tommy Lorino broke and stuff like that. Well, the captain of the team was a guy named Tim Baker, okay? He was long gone. And then Tim Baker just clipped the hell out of one of those Alabama guys, okay? I mean, the touchdown was called back, okay? And little David, okay, I'm like in the 9th grade or something like that, kind of stuff like that. Little David is just heartbroken, okay? And that kind of stuff. But anyway, they line up now far from me to you, Andrew, okay? And they're like this. And I'm on second seat, so I'm looking right down in it. And I remember Tim Baker was looking, he wasn't really looking at me, looking at the guy in front of me. He's like looking at me. But anyway, they're like that. And Tim Baker, I was so disappointed by being called back. And Tim Baker said, "Boys, I got him good." And that whole huddle just broke out and laughing, okay? Well, anyway, I always wanted to meet Tim Baker. He was from Decatur, okay? And he banked where, the bank I was, and a lot of times I would just have missed him, okay? He had a coal and gravel company he had and stuff like that, but I missed him, okay? But anyway, years later, I'm going to a gun show in Birmingham, okay? I'm with that idiot Ray Russell, as you well know. Yeah. Anyway, Wade and I, my best buddy. But anyway, I had just bought this hog leg, okay? And my legs were so bad, Wade wanted to look around, and he set me down over at the corner. And this old guy comes up and stuff and sees this big old hog leg there, and he gets to ask me about it. And I find out his name is Baker, and he's from Decatur, okay? And I get to talking to him, and I said, "Are you any kin of that famous Baker from Decatur?" I said, "I've always wanted to meet him, and he used to come in the same bank, and I just came close to meeting him and stuff." He says, "I know what you mean. My two uncles were known as the Battling Bakers, okay? They were prize fighters, and they used to have big prize fights in Legion Field." And I said, "Yeah, I remember my daddy talking about those fights. Daddy went to some of those damn things and stuff." But I said, "That's not the Baker I wanted to meet. I wanted to meet Tim Baker, the captain of Auburn's 1957 national championship." He said, "That's me. You want to see my championship ring?
Man, you saw it there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Man.
The world is full of coincidence. Okay.
Oh,
And if y'all railing and don't mind me jumping from, one thing like that, I'll tell you about another coincidence stuff. I'm in graduate school down at Auburn, okay? Now, I hate the damn library with a passion, still do, and stuff. I love, Googling that kind of stuff like that. I'm in graduate school, and I got this damn professor that came from Yale, and he's wanting to show us how great Yale was and all this kind of stuff. And it was 9 in our class, and he says, I'm going to give 3 A's in this class, 3 B's, and I'm going to give the other 3 of you F's. Well, they kick you out of graduate school, and that kind of stuff. And stuff. But anyway, this was one of those long weekends. This is summer quarter, and this like maybe the 4th of July or something like that. I had to finish something in the library, let's say Friday night and stuff. And then I was going to spend the whole weekend on studying for this quiz we was going to have Tuesday morning, which is the first day of class, okay? Well, I put some book up or something like that. But when I came back to my table, my textbook that I was going to be tested on, going to spend the whole thing, was missing. Somebody had picked it up and stuff like that. And I couldn't get anybody to help me. And they were trying to close down the thing for the 4th of July and all that kind of stuff. And they had the guy that was head of the damn library was out of Columbia, South America, okay. Hardly spoke English, okay. But anyway, if I didn't get out of that deal, he was going to have me arrested. I said, you got my book. You're going to get me kicked out of graduate school, and that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, he kicks me out of there, and I spend the next day or something, studying my notes and stuff. But I guess it was Sunday night or something, they opened it back up, yeah. Or anyway, when I went back in there and trying to get somebody to help me, I couldn't, because it's crazy. It's one book out of 6 million, okay? Well, there was this real nice, tall, beautiful girl there, okay? She agreed to help me, okay? Now, we're on 3 floors down the opposite corner of the damn library, okay? And this girl says, if I'm going to help you, you got to show me kind of what this book looked like. Pick me. So I reached up here and it looked like my damn book. Out of 6 million books. Unbelievable. But this story goes on now, okay? Let me tell you what. I later found out this was Miss South Carolina or North Carolina, I forget what. And later on that, they were going to have the Miss America contest. And guess who won Miss America?
Her?
No. She won Miss Congeniality.
Wow.
She later became a famous comedian, okay? You've seen her talk left brain, That's weird. How much time you got left? You ready for another one or not? And I started on this and I went off some, is how poor our educational system is now, okay? And that kind of stuff. I don't think it's any better or much better than it was when we were, in school, or I was in school, okay? Now, the books are better now, okay? And they're a lot better than when Mother and Daddy went to school, okay? And stuff. But basically, with all the graphics, and when you watch movies, okay? My God, they got hundreds of people that work on these damn movies, right? And they spend millions of dollars, okay? Now, we got an educational department, the federal, they spend millions or billions of dollars, and they just wasted, and all they teach is woke, or they got Joseph Goebbels out there, in doc. But what they ought to be doing is taking in each subject, take the best teachers there is, okay, and have them doing it, and do this, then edit the hell out of it, redo it, then have them redo it, and you might have one teacher who came out the best of doing this, teach on this day's lecture or a part of this day's lecture, and put it all on film, and then let the teachers use this as a damn tool, okay? Here's something else I'm big in. I got like a master's in statistics and stuff, multiple regression and all this kind of stuff like that. My God, what we need to do is go out there and find out what needs to be taught. You ought to sample everybody after they've been out a year, 3 years, 10 years. What did you take in school that is of value to you? What did you take in school that is of no use? What's coming online in the future that people need to be learning, okay? And you put all this stuff together, okay? And of course, I watch tons of stuff on YouTube, and man, I wish some of these people at Stanford and stuff, they're just lousy teachers, and like, math is some of the worst teaching there is, okay? And you could do it so easy and stuff like that, and get all your graphics in there and stuff like that. And I'll tell you another pet peeve of mine. Like, I hate English, okay? English literature and all that crap, okay? Now, it's not that it's like when they're teaching that, they ain't teaching other stuff, okay? But really what they need to be teaching is communication. And the stuff they teach is English or what, it's just part of it. You got graphic communications, you got verbal and nonverbal, you got all this kind of stuff. And I also believe in having the students teach them, teach because it breathes in school. But work all this together and make it good. And you got education that is not just, the regular schooling. You got continuing education. You got homeschooling. You got private. Put all this stuff together and let's do something. And I'm big military, like that kind of stuff. If we don't have good education, our military will go down to hell and that kind of stuff. How in the hell are we going to fight the damn Chinese? Yeah, white people, we're 101 IQ, okay? The damn Jews and the Chinamen, they're 110. The blacks are 85. The Mexicans are like 90 to 95. And the blacks in Africa, believe it or not, are 70. And that kind of stuff. And the book, The Bell Curve and stuff, I've read that damn thing, okay? And I will tell you, that is scientific study, okay? Anyway, there's just so much in that kind of stuff. And anything you can do to help or spread it or whatever. No, wait a minute. I got another damn story I want to tell you. God dog it. My family are stubborn, okay? I come from that, we're good people, but right's right, okay? But now we make damn sure we're right, okay? And that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm down in Auburn and I'm taking calculus course, okay? And this older professor there is teaching us stuff like that. And of course, he should have been retired a long time. But anyway, my first test, he counts off like 4 points on each one of my arrowheads because they wasn't pretty. Okay. Plus he counts off because I did it in 3 steps and he wanted me to do it in 5 steps, okay? Well, the next text, I do the same thing, and he does the same thing, except he counts off 8 points per arrowhead, okay? And then it got to 16 points and stuff. And anyway, of course, I'm too stubborn to, anyway, he calls me in his office and he says, Mr. Hardwick, if you don't change your way, I'm going to flunk you. And I said, Dr. Moss, you may or may not know this. My mother worked for the Plainsman, okay? And one of her best friends there at the time was Dr. Ralph Drawn. Now, you may or may not know who he is, but he's the president of this here damn university, okay? And I said, now this wasn't true. All the other was true, but and I said, he has assured my mother, okay, that if you flunk me, they're going to teach it over next quarter. Oh, God! He flunked the hell out of me, okay? But now, let me tell you about this and stuff. And the worse he would get, the harder I'd study, okay? And so next quarter, all I did was just add an extra 5 hour or 3, whatever it was, hours onto it, what I was taking. And anyway, I took my first test and it came back 100, and the professor called me into his office. He said, David, I've been teaching about 6 or 7 years here. I've never had anybody make 100 on one of my tests. And then I got to checking in on you and saw that you had flunked this course. How is this? I said, well, I had Dr. Moss and say no more. You don't have to come to class. You just every time we have a test, you get a student to tell you to come in there and what it is. So I never went to class or anything. I just went in there and get 100 on my test, okay? But then he sent a student after me and called me in there at the office. He said, David, I'm fixing to cover some stuff that Dr. Moss didn't have, okay? And he says, you'd better study this, and take it. And he says, even if you come 1/10 of a point making your A, I ain't going to give it to you, okay? And I thought about it, and I said, Dr. Moss, I don't give a damn. I want to see if I can make an A without ever cracking a book or whatever, this kind of stuff. Anyway, I came a half a point of getting a damn A. I had all hundreds, but anyway, I was that kind of stuff. But this thing goes on, okay? All right. Later that year, Dr. Moss retires, okay? Now, anyway, where does he move, okay? He moves to downtown, the Village Inn, the old Pitts Hotel down, right behind Toomer's Drug. You know where it was? Yeah. So anyway, my roommate, Harvey Stud Spiegel, okay, which is a hell of a damn much a story. Spiegel had the fastest pitch outside the majors. Spiegel was all-state Florida basketball, football, and baseball. He came to Auburn on a baseball scholarship. Spiegel's parents were worth multi-millions, okay? And he was good looking to be the thing like that. And his mother was a goddamn Yankee, and his daddy was a super nice Southerner, okay? But anyway, he was my roommate. Anyway, we moved in the old Pitts Hotel, that kind of stuff like that. Well, guess what? When Dr. Moss retired, he moved in there too, okay? Well, I told some of those, other students in there about that stuff. And they gave Dr. Moss hell. Even I started feeling sorry for the son of a bitch. What goes around comes around and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, Spiegel, okay? I had a voice. I had to drop out one winter quarter because I couldn't talk. It came from eating there at the on the corner. What? It was like anyway. The food didn't have any vitamins in it and stuff like that. Anyway, the basketball game just for the fall quarter ended or something like that. Spiegel got kicked off the team for fighting. Okay, when he went down to Fort Myers, he's supposed to pitch the next day, and some of his buddies on his football team came in there and got him drunk, and he had a fight. Anyway, Spiegel was a character and a half, and he was the guy that came in second in engineering. Okay, we go to this basketball game, and Jeff Beard, you know who that was? He was athletic director. Okay, he happened to sit in front of us. Now, this is fall quarters, spring quarters when Spiegel got kicked off the team. But anyway, Spiegel just picks Jeff Beard's hat off and puts it on his head, on Spiegel's head, and then he puts it back on Jeff Beard's. Okay, that's all was ever said or something. I mean, him and Spiegel went outside and came back in like 2-3 minutes, and it was nothing. But anyway, when I come back after dropping out a quarter, okay, and stuff, I hear about Spiegel. I was in the room with him. I hear about Spiegel has called riots and everything, and all the plainsmen talking. He's gone to the damn dogs and everything else and whatever. Now, Spiegel had this little Corvair, okay, and it was always giving him trouble, okay. And he'd been out in Lodgepole or something, coming back by this damn black beer joint. He coasted in there and asked them if they got a phone. They said, yeah, back in the back corner, okay? Well, anyway, Spiegel goes back to the phone. Now, what Spiegel didn't know is just before he got there, okay, or it's done quiet down, they had a knife fight. They had called the police. The Auburn police come in, everything's quiet, but they look back in the corner. This white boy. They arrest Spiegel, okay? And then the police continue to arrest him. What they do is they take bricks and they bust all the damn, and there was about 5 or 6 damn police cars. They bust all the windows out of the damn police cars. And it was only when they took Spiegel to jail they found out he had nothing to do with it, okay? But anyway, back to this deal I get. So finally, after about 2 weeks, I run into Spiegel, and when I do, I grab him and I start giving him hell. Why, I leave here and you go to the dogs and stuff like that. And he kept saying, but you were there. That deal about him taking the hat off was I mean, I never recognized any of the damn stuff, okay? But it was all over the damn plane. God almighty, bye. Don't let me open my damn mouth again.